All right, welcome back, all you tone chasers out there in YouTube land. I'm Mike.
I'm Mr. Nick.
All right, so something that we wanted to do for quite a long time here in the studio is an actual walkthrough. A lot of times you guys see us here in this little subframe that you see here, and that's all you guys get to see. But what we wanted to do was, as we're going into 2022, we wanted to showcase some of the gear that we are using here in the studio, and maybe it will give you guys some ideas of some gear that you want to use in your studio, or maybe you're using the same gear and we can compare notes, so to speak, right? Because we do like to read all the comments, we do like to hear everything you guys have to say, and we could grow and build a community and keep making this thing here on YouTube land even bigger and better. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into what we have going on here in Pennyfire Records, moving on into 2022. And of course, as always, there will be more gear. It will get bigger, it will get better, and you guys will continue to grow with us as we move throughout 2022. But here's where we're at right now.
So stick around.
All right, so let's start off our tour over here with a computer. This is a mid-2020 27-inch iMac from Apple with some various upgrades done to it. We have some videos that you can go check out in the past if you want to see some of the upgrades that we have done to it. Moving on, we have the focal shaped twins, which are the main workhorses here of the studio. It's what we do most of our mixing and mastering on. And next to those, we have the Headphone Pro CLA 10s. We use those mainly for tracking and then just obviously for referencing back and forth while we're mixing. For our interface in the studio is an analog audio. You don't see analog audio out there as much, I feel like, anymore. These days it seems like it's all about UAD, but analog audio is also an amazing interface that gets overshadowed. If you ever get an opportunity to work with one, I highly recommend it. One thing unique about this Orion Studio from Analog Audio is it has an A/B switcher built right into it, so we're able to run both of our studio monitors just from this press of a button right here instead of having to have an extra controller. Along with the monitors and the interface down below behind the desk is a JBL 310S, a little 10-inch subwoofer back there. And then ins and outs. For the studio, we have a total of 32 inputs that the Orion can handle. Currently, we have it set up for 20 inputs. So we are feeding 8 additional inputs from the Focusrite Sapphire via ADAT into the analog audio. As far as analog gear, outboard gear is concerned, we have 2 Warm Audio WA12s right here. They kind of have an API preamp style sound to them. Below that is the Warm Audio Bus Comp. It's kind of like an SSL G bus compressor. We have below that our patch bay. This is from Samson, just the S-Patch 48-point balanced patch bay. We have it split down the middle right now, so the first 24 channels are all concerned with the ins and outs for the interface, and then the other half is the ins and outs for the outboard gear in the studio. Moving over here, we have 2 WA73 EQs from Warm Audio, and then a WA2A down below it. Off to the side, we have 2 WA76s. We have an ART voice channel. That's nice because it's a channel strip, so it has your preamp, your EQ, your compression, de-esser, has everything all in one. And then we have we have a Pro VLA2 below that. That is a stereo compressor, or you can use it in dual mono. Centerpiece right here on the desk itself, we have an SSL UF8, normally accompanied by an SSL UC1. The UC1 is out for repairs right now. SSL is getting us taken care of. Hopefully we'll have that back soon. Down below, we have a Native Instrument Complete Control S88. This is the first version of it. Absolutely love this thing. This is where we get all of our MIDI work done. All right, if we go ahead and move on over here. This is our amp rack right now. As you can see, there's only 3 amps on it. A few of the amps are at Mr. Nicky's house. But currently here in the studio, we have a Victory V30, a Victory Copper Deluxe, and then we have a Dark Glass Alpha Omega for the bass. Like I said, we have additional amps at Mr. Nicky's house, and then, you know, obviously clients that have their own amps want to bring those in and record with those themselves. Here down below, we have our pedal board. We have an Ernie Ball volume on it tied to our Polytone for tuning purposes. And then the preamp section, the way the board is wired, this is all going to the preamp, like the front of the guitar amplifier. And we have your SP compressor. We have your EP booster, your Horizon Devices precision drive, an EVH 5150, and a Santa Ana overdrive from Fender. And then we have a Kraken V4 preamp pedal on here, which is really nice because it'll turn any amp that you're using into an actual Kraken from Victory. Very high gain sounding amplifier, something more like a PV, 6505 or EVH 5150, something like that. And then we also have the Strymons for the effects section of the board. Down here is one of the newer additions to the studio. We have a Warm Audio WA251 microphone. Normally it's sitting over there with all of our mics, but we were using it more recently and put it right here. Next we have guitars. Go ahead and come around here. All right, so this is just some of our personal collection. There's quite a few more guitars at Mr. Nicky's house, but this is what we keep in the studio. So we have a Fender Mexican Strat that's been modded out. So it has custom fretwork done to it, had the tuners replaced, had the nut replaced, put some custom shop 1969 Fender pickups in it, and have all of the electronics replaced as well. Moving on, we have a Tele style from Chapman, an ML3 traditional. We haven't done any upgrades to this thing. It just plays awesome as it is. Next to that is my first kind of higher end guitar I had bought years ago. It was from Schecter. It's a C1 FRS Platinum, and did upgrade this. We took the original EMG 85 out of it and put a 57 in there. It just sounds more, it gives it more of a passive guitar tone. I like the 57 a lot better. Probably the guitar that gets the most use in the studio, this is mine and Mr. Nicky's favorite guitar, is our Chapman Ml-1 Pro with the bare knuckle pickup silos in it. Love this guitar. We do have a video on this guitar if you want to check it out. Additionally, we have another Ml-1 Pro by Chapman, and this one has the bare knuckle pickup juggernauts inside of it. Great rhythm guitar tone. As you can tell, we like Chapman here in the studio because here is yet another Chapman. This is the ML2 Pro Modern in Fireburst. We haven't done anything to this guitar. It's stock and yeah, plays great. And last but not least is Mr. Nicky's project guitar. I believe we have a video about this where we talk about the various things we've done to this. This is a Chinese Telecaster from Fender, but we've since gone through it and pretty much, redone the whole guitar. We stripped off the original finishing, put a custom finish on it, stain job, changed out all the electronics, changed out the pickups. This is the Gojira, right? From
the Fortitude.
The Fortitude. And Gojira, right? Fortitude Gojira. Yeah. All right. So as we move on in the studio, I come to where we have our microphones and some of the additional power cables and everything stored. Back here, we have just the case to our Audix drum miking kit. Most of them are on the drums currently. We have a pair of Royer R10s. The Royer R10s are kind of like a pseudo 121, great on guitar cabinets. We have a Warm Audio WA47. It's a vintage replica of a vintage tube microphone. We have a UT FET 47, which is a replica of the newer Neumann 47. We have an AKG D112, a Sennheiser MD421, a Neumann TLM 102, and a Warm Audio WA87. We have a stereo pair of SE8 small diaphragm condenser microphone. One of them you'll see here in a minute on the drums. And then we have a pair of SE-T2s. The SE-T2s are a version of the SE4400 Alpha, and they're kind of like an AKG C414 style microphone, very transparent, very good microphone overall. They're on the drum overheads currently. Okay, as we move on, you'll see since this is in the garage and we don't have a whole lot of space here to work with, we had to get kind of clever of how we did some of the things in the back half of the studio. So for instance, we have a room treatment right here panel that actually hinges and moves out of the way so you can get out of the studio and get inside the house. And then behind that, to not waste any space, we have just our cable management back here. We have some leftover 1x3s and some coat hangers. We just stained the 1x3s to match the rest of the furniture in the studio. And then we just labeled these 5, 10, 15, so on and so forth feet, so that you can quickly come over here and grab a cable, start micing something up and move on. Over here, we have our supply line for the studio. So hidden behind this bass trap, there's an air vent that comes in from the mudroom of the house. So it's pumping fresh air into the studio. And then I'll show you here in a minute, there's a return box so once this turns on, it pressurizes the studio. And then the stale air inside the studio gets pumped into the bathroom. And that way we keep circulating and getting fresh air in here. So if I open this up, you can see there's the original door to the house. That's the original garage door. And you can hear that. Hopefully it came through the microphone. You can hear that as it closes down. It's pretty airtight in here, so that helps out with a lot of the sound not leaking out. But if we move on, one thing worth showcasing real quick is our how we get an actual sound or signal to the band, to somebody that's sitting back here on the drums. So we just have a Mackie HM4 headphone splitter, and this is just being routed from the front of the studio. It comes out of the patch bay on a 1/4-inch TS, so it has dual 1/4-inch TS left and right that goes into one TRS cable, and that plugs in here. And then this gives you 4 headphone inputs back here, so you can have your drummer, you can have your bass guitar, your guitarist, whoever, plugged in back here. We have an additional HM4 by the UF8 at the front of the studio for anybody at the front that may be monitoring monitoring the mix and see what's going on. So let's talk about our drums for a minute. This is an SJC Paramount series. We picked this up used off of Reverb for an absolutely killer deal. To accompany that, we have a Tama SLP G Series Walnut 6.5 by 14 snare. And then we have the Zildjian Studio Pack that we picked up from Sweetwater. And this just has various, it has Zildjian A's, A Customs, K's, and K Customs all mixed in. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of different Zildjians all mixed in. And then we added a 10-inch K Custom Splash and a Oriental China from Zildjian off to the side. It's mic'd up currently, like I said, with the Audix drum pack, with a few exceptions. Like we have the SE8 right here on the hi-hat. We have 2 SM57s on the top and the bottom of the snare, and then the high tom and the first floor tom are mic'd with Audix D2s. And we have enough to mic the top and the bottom of all the toms if we want to get that extra, big, deep, resonant sound from the toms. And the lower floor tom is an Audix D4. And then, like I said earlier, the kick drum is mic'd with an Audix as well, and that's the D6. All right, so if we move on here, we can come over here to this side, move the chair. Down here, we have just a Proco snake, and we have an 8-channel and a 4-channel. So a total of 12 inputs that we can get routed from the back of the studio to the front of the studio, and keeps it pretty clean here with just 2 cables on the floor to watch out for. So over here, we did the same system where we have room treatment that can actually move and pivot out of the way. This is kind of like our storage closet. So back here, let me switch sides. Back here, you can see the return air supply box up there. And then you can just see we built some various shelves just to house some of the random stuff that we have here in the studio. Okay, if we move over this way, You can see probably one of the most pivotal pieces of gear in the studio. I don't know if we could do it without this. Could we, Mr. Nicky? Yeah, I don't think we can do it without this. So this is the Marshall beer fridge. Yeah, just essential part of the studio. You know, when you want to get rehydrated and you need to grab something quick and not have to walk out of the studio. The funny thing is I can't tell you how many people come in here and they actually think that this is a real amplifier and a real cabinet. They don't realize it's an actual fridge sitting over here. So no studio aesthetically would be complete without this. Next to that is our low-end supplier to the studio, to our mixes. That is our Fender P Bass. This is a Fender American Professional 2. And absolutely beautiful, amazing playing guitar. We're gonna probably do a little separate video on this here soon. Next to that is our Chapman Ml-1b. This is a neck through body. So you can see the neck comes all the way down. It's a walnut and I believe mahogany here in the middle. Absolutely beautiful guitar and plays amazing. Sounds kind of like a Warwick or maybe even like a Fender Jazz Bass. E to a certain degree has a real fat, lower, chunky bottom, whereas the P Bass has the nice nasally, aggressive tone. Okay, put that down. So as we've been walking around the studio, you've got to see some of the various room treatment here. And if you notice the back half of the studio, we have the diffusion panels up from, like I said, from the whole back half of the studio. Front half of the studio, we only have a few diffusion plates just in some key areas. And the whole reason for that is to create a live in and a dead in. If you ever have to record and mix in the same room like this, you have to get creative and clever on how you're going to actually get the room to move. And so if you just make it all dead, then obviously your drums are just going to be dead. It's not gonna work very well. And when you're in a small room like this, you've got to get creative and you've got to have little tricks up your sleeves to actually get the drums to sound bigger than they are. So one way that we do that is we have the diffusion panels up here on the back half of the studio, and those allow all the higher frequencies to still move around and bounce and reverberate through the room to create movement, and then while simultaneously taming some of the low end. We also have additional panels that we put up over here on the front half of the studio. They're little 1/4-inch thick wood panels that just hang on to all of these. They just pop right on. I'll grab one here in a second and show you. And we put that on the whole front half of the studio, and that will help make the whole room come back to life. Also, if you're thinking about getting some room treatment for your studio, or if you have it, or if you do have it already, one thing worth noting is to not mount your panels directly up against the wall if you can avoid it. If you can have your room treatment sit off of the wall a few inches, you're going to get higher performance out of it. Right now, ours are about 3 inches, 3.5 inches off of the wall, which is the same thickness as the panel itself. And that effectively, not exactly mathematically, but it does more or less almost give it double the performance. So if you have a 3-inch panel, 3 inches off of the wall, you get about 6 inches worth of room treatment, more or less. It's not exact math like that, but it's close. So yeah, if you have yours set it directly against the wall, try to pull them off the wall a little bit, get a little bit better performance out of them. So let me go grab a room treatment real quick while Mr. Nicky kind of shows you the clouds and some of the things that we're doing up here. And I'll grab grab one of our modular panels to show you how we do that. All right, so we probably have maybe 12 or 14 of these panels made up, and they just sit out there in the mud room with the amps and, with the guitar cabinets and some additional guitars out there. So when we need them, we just grab them. and bring them on in. You can see it's real simple, just a little L bracket, and they're just bolted onto the panel itself. You can see it's about 1/4 inch thick wood panel that we just stained to match the rest of the furniture here in the studio. When we're ready, you just come over here, put it on like this, and it just literally sits there. And we'll do that and put those on all the ones in the front of the studio, and instantly you'll hear a lot of life come back to the studio and the drums get that much bigger. Eventually we'll do a little video that showcases before and after putting up these panels.
All right, everyone. So I hope you guys like what you saw. That is a studio tour of Pennyfire Records here in 2021, moving into 2022.
2022, man.
Now, a few things that we forgot to mention was the studio furniture and where we obtained all the sound treatment for the studio. The studio furniture was built by us and a buddy. His name is Grant. And I believe if you follow him on Instagram and Facebook, it's GG Emmons is his tag name. He does a lot of great work.
Phenomenal.
He was able to build us the desk as well as the side cart over here for, I want to say, around $250. And if you look up any of the studio furniture out there, you guys know that it costs well into the thousands of dollars to build anything like this that we have in the studio. And for $250, we were able to build the main desk as well as the side cart. So if you have any friends out there, or if you have the know-how, a little bit of skill, goes a long way, and you could save a lot of money, and you could put that money into further gear for your studio.
And this is plywood, right?
This is engineered hardwood.
Engineered hardwood,
yeah,
okay.
Birch engineered hardwood. Nothing special.
Nope.
But
Grant,
gets the job done.
It just looks good.
It does. And then to further that, so for $250, we got the desk, we got the side cart, and then we were able to build the amp rack holder that you just saw. I want to say we spent an additional $50, maybe
$100, somewhere around there, yeah,
at the most to build the amp rack holder, right? So for maybe a total cost, we'll round up on this, say $350. We got all the studio furniture here in the studio.
Excuse me.
So, also along with that is the room treatment. Yeah. So we built probably 90% of the room treatment in here.
I think we have 1, 2, maybe 6 panels that were GIK built and phenomenal. So they did an awesome job on those.
So GIK Acoustics, looked them up. We went through them for a few of the sound panels. The monster bass trap here on the back of the studio, the center one, and then the the panels next to that have the diffusion panels on it is them as well. And the only reason why we went through them for those particular panels is because they have they're mathematically figured out. They have the CNC machines. They have all of that techie stuff that builds those panels exactly to what you need for your studio. So
definitely check them out, man. If that's the route that you want to go, highly recommend.
So look up GIK Acoustics. That's the panels that we have at the back and the front of the studio. Everything else here on the side we built ourselves. And with that being said, we're gonna build some further panels for Mr. Nicky over here, his home studio.
Look out for future videos. We definitely plan on doing a video on that and kind of giving a little bit of insight on building your own bass traps, or I think in this case we're gonna do clouds.
Clouds, yeah.
So
we built I think for your studio currently, right? We built the bass traps, the corner bass traps. We built the reflection.
The corner bass traps. Actually, I want to give a shout out if I can to my boy. Again, I think I gave him a shout out earlier with the guitars. He helped me build the bass traps as well as Griffin Woodworking. So check him out as well. So he actually helped me do the bass traps, but everything else we did, and as far as reflections,
reflection points, yeah. So we're going to do the clouds here pretty soon, and if you guys are interested in that and want to see a video on how to build your own reflection panels or sound panels, cloud panels that is, hit us up, let us know, and we could do a video on that for his future home upgrade, and we could do a walkthrough of that and let you guys know what we're doing for that. Now, with that being said though, hope you guys like what you saw, and don't forget please to like,
subscribe,
and drop us a comment down below. We do read all the comments, We love interacting with you guys, and we can't wait to see what you guys have to say about our home studio tour here in 2021 going into 2022.